Hey folks, Dan Cavallari, Slow Guy on the Fast Ride. I'm out here in my garage where I do a lot of projects. I mean, I'm looking at my woodworking station over here, my motorcycles over here, bikes get repaired here. I like to make things and I love to fix things. In the bike world, I think there's a correlation there. People really appreciate handmade bicycles. And handmade bicycles have gotten this mystique about them because it's tailored to you, your ride, your body type, and you know that there was a person behind that product ensuring every step of the way that each process that goes into making that bike is done correctly and inspected before it reaches you. It got me to thinking why we don't value that same handmade process for other things we buy in the bike world beyond just the bicycle itself. Of course, there's things like wheels, which, you know, there's some value to handmade wheels. We sort of have a little bit of a mystique, less so now that wheels are coming pre-built. But what about things like accessories? Do we really care if our accessories get that same meticulous care? Well, that got me to thinking about something like a lock. Now, when I worked for Velo News, I sung the praises of Ottolocks because I liked that it was compact, fit in my jersey pocket, and it was tough as nails. The company itself is also very honest about what the Ottolock can and can't do. They're not saying you can never cut through it, but they're saying it's for a specific purpose, and we made it this way on purpose, and we thought about the process carefully. Turns out Ottolocks are actually made by hand here in the US up near Portland, Oregon. So I went up to Portland and drove down to Wilsonville to the Ottolock's headquarters to see the process and to see that there's people behind it actually doing the handmade process start to finish. And it was fascinating. So let's take a trip up to Wilsonville now and check out the handmade process, what goes into making Ottolocks.
The Ottolock's build process, of course, starts with the raw materials, which you can see here on this spool. That's Pete. Pete's pulling the raw material through a hole into a press, and that press is going to cut each band to the proper length. It's also going to press ridges into the band. Now, those ridges help secure the band in place when it slots into the lock's head. More on that in just a minute. Once each band comes off the press, Pete takes it over to this big magnifying glass to make sure that the depth of each and every ridge is completely correct. He uses a micrometer to make sure that each ridge is the same depth within, something like 1/10 of a millimeter. Once Pete is satisfied that the band has passed his inspection, he brings it to a riveting machine, and this rivet is going to secure one end of the band so none of the internals will move around for the rest of the build process. Now Pete's going to take a little walk to a different station. This is the burping station. Yeah, you heard that right. Burping. The idea here is to make sure all the materials inside the band are lined up correctly and cut cleanly. So that's what Pete's doing at these various machines. He's pulling the outer shell of the band and ensuring that it's taut over the internal materials. Then Pete's going to give it a nice fresh cut, and then he's going to wrestle with it a little bit. And that's to pull the outer sheath off of the internal band material to leave a little gap. The outer sheath now extends past the metal bands within. Now, you saw earlier in the process that one end of the band was already secured with a rivet, but the other end is still open. So when Pete passes it off to the next station, the tipping station, the open end of the band will now be closed off. This is a very meticulous process that requires some steady hands and a little bit of glue. But before the glue can even be applied, all of those little tiny strands of Kevlar that are still outstanding need to be carefully trimmed. Once Kevlar starts to unravel, it keeps unraveling. So this step of the process is crucial. At this point in the process, the band itself is complete. However, now it needs to be secured to the locking head. This is another meticulous process that needs to be done by hand. Each individual component, and there are quite a few of them, get laid out onto a labeled mat. This ensures that whoever's building that head doesn't miss a part. As you can see, it takes steady hands and a little bit of patience to make sure all of these tiny parts make it into the proper place within the locking head. It's very important to keep track of each component as the process goes along so that no individual step gets overlooked. Now that the head is assembled, it's important to ensure that it can't be disassembled, especially from a thief. So Marta here is riveting the head together using a special machine. And finally, each and every Ottolock that comes off the manufacturing floor ends up here. This is the quality control table. Now, you can see that Pat here has a checklist that he has to go through with every single lock on the table to ensure that nothing was missed, nothing's imperfect, and everything works exactly as it's intended. From there, it gets packaged and it heads out the door to you.
As you can see, it takes quite a lot of skill, start to finish, to make any of the Ottolocks. The people who are making these locks have been doing it for a very long time. They know the process really well, they know all the parts, and as you can see, there's actually a lot of physical effort to make these locks. So my question to you, my viewers, is does that change your perception of what you buy beyond the bike, the accessories? Does it matter to you if your accessories are also handmade with that same care that a handmade bicycle might be built? Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about handmade products in general, and more specifically, does it matter to you if your accessories like a lock are handmade, or are you just looking for the lowest price, the toughest lock, whatever? Leave a comment below, and while you're down there, hit that thumbs up. Go subscribe to Slow Guy on the Fast Ride at slowguyonthefastride.com, and give me a follow on Instagram and Twitter at BrownTieDan. That's me. If you have questions about this video, I'd love to hear them. So thank you for joining me today to check out Ottolocks and the handmade process of building locks up in Wilsonville, Oregon. Sorry, Oregonians. We will catch you on the next episode.